says murder, he says. Every time they kiss, he says murder, he says. At a time like this, he says murder, he says. Is that the language of love? Baby, this time it's real solid, he says. Takes her in his arms, he says solid, he says. Meaning all her charms, he says solid, he says. Isn't that the language of love? He says hep hep with helium. Now babe, we're cooking and other expressions to it. We're in the groove and the groove is good looking. Sounds like his uppers don't fit. He says murder, he says. Every time they kiss, he says murder, he says. Keep it up like this, he says murder, he says. In that impossible tone, brings nobody's murder but his own. He says hep hep with helium. Now babe, we're cooking and other expressions to it. He says we're in the groove and the groove's good looking. Sounds like his uppers don't fit. Murder, he says. Murder, he says. Murder, he says. In that impossible tone, brings nobody's murder but his own. Murder, 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 what he says.
Turn me loose, woman.
Brings nobody's murder but his own.
Very crazy this week, right? First 2 weeks, actually. U.S. Embassy is attacked. U.S. kills the terrorist Soleimani. Iran retaliates. And as usual, leftist elitists come out and distort all of the facts. As usual, they have manipulated what I like to call the pillars. Now, some of you may not know what I mean when I say that. Of course, I'm going to show you or explain it to you. It's what we use to shape our culture. Entertainment, education, the fourth estate, and most recent, baby, social media, all of which have been a part of silencing or distorting conservative ideology as well as the facts. They always do that. all week long on social media and the fourth estate, elitist and leftist statements have come out, and they've all been wrong on this issue as far as Iran is concerned. They have perpetuated lies and propaganda to fit their resistance narrative. Now, before I bring on my guest, I just want to say that everything that I've heard from Hollywood, especially on social media, have been so outrageous. I mean, really, it's utterly repulsive and most disrespectful. I mean, let's look. Colin Kaepernick, Ava DuVernay versus Megyn Kelly, and Patricia Arquette at the Golden Globes. Those are just a few examples, okay, of far left opinions about something that they clearly know nothing about. I'm talking about Hollywood, not Megyn Kelly. She's clearly informed. Social media has specific problems already with banning folks for speaking truth about the radical regime of the Islamic State in Iran. I believe that they are what Michelle Malkin likes to call them, Silicon Valley Sharia. But it's not just them. It's also in the mainstream media siding with Iran. And let me just say, folks, mainstream media always said that, Trump is trying to push war and this, that, and third. That's a bunch of hogwash. How do we know this? Because on January 8th, 2020, Trump came out and debunked them. He was basically they were just spreading a whole bunch of fake news. He said that there were no American casualties when Iran retaliated, but the mainstream media just went on and saying what they wanted to say. Trump's starting a war, right? He's encouraging them to start one with us. That's why we have to get him out of there. It's just a distraction for impeachment, but I digress. What pisses me off about both social media and the fourth estate is that they continue to push lies, panic, and propaganda, but they continue to broadcast that crap. And we know that they're lying, which makes it that much more infuriating. The pillars have got to be taken away from the left and anyone in the elite. They just have to, especially if we're going to settle the chaos that they've sowed amongst our country. Now, to join me to talk about what's going on with Iran and the influence on social media from leftist elites, my good friend, he's a veteran filmmaker and contributor here to speak on it, Lior.
Please clap.
How you doing?
Please clap.
How you doing, my sister? How's everything going?
Oh, I'm doing so good. I'm so glad that you are on for my very first episode. I very, very much appreciate that. Thank you for coming.
It's a true honor, I'm humble and blessed to know you and your sister. Amazing people, amazing. I always follow your videos. I love hearing the truth for a change on social media because you don't get that kind of truth at all. And you're straight up. You're you say nothing but the truth. You speak. You have fake news out there and you have real news, and the real news is coming out from people like you. And I really enjoy that. That's the reason I like being on social media.
I'm so grateful for that. Thank you so much, Leo. I really appreciate that. So before we actually went live, you were telling me a lot of what you know as far as the threat of Iran. So before I ask you any questions about social media and how we're seeing them kind of covering for Iran, tell us a little bit about what you know about that region specifically.
So let me give you a little background about myself. I'm a Middle Eastern Israelite. So basically, my whole family is from the Middle East, from Babylon, which is called Baghdad now, in Iraq. That's where my family actually originates from. So of course, a lot of people migrated over there to Iran, and Iranians go over there due to import-export. So I have a lot of knowledge of that entire, pretty much the entire geography of Iran, Iraq, and pretty much everything that's going on, whether it be the Middle East or in Iran. So I could tell you a lot about it. What a lot of people are ignorant to is the fact that they don't remember 1979. Before 1979,
that was a big year, especially in Lebanon.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, what a lot of ignorance that I'm hearing today is that people think it's butterflies and rainbows in Iran. They have no idea what's going on. Before, when the Shah was in charge, prior to 1979, Iran was one of the most modern civilizations out there, in that region. It was beautiful. Women didn't have to wear headscarves or get their heads cut off like today. There was freedom. There was a democracy there. After the revolution in 1979, Khomeini overthrew the Shah, thanks to that idiot Jimmy Carter. So that piece of poop, what happened over there, he abandoned them. And due to that, the Shah was overtaken, and, the whole thing that happened after that. And of course,
Jimmy, let's go.
Khomeini and all of that's going on, and all of these things, that led to it. right now, basically what's going on, and this is what really ticks me off about the left, because I have friends from all over sides. I really don't care what side you're on, as long as you're respectful. I respect you. That's the way it is. And the thing that I just didn't understand is how I see some of my friends who are gay listing out, saying how furious they are with Trump for killing Soleimani. Soleimani, a gay guy. Okay, so first off, I have a lot of people in the homosexual community that are involved in bashing Trump for killing Soleimani, a man responsible for over 600 deaths of our soldiers. Not to mention, if a woman is a virgin and her some guy proposes to her and she denies him that proposal, he could just say without anything that she cheated on him or she did something that was blasphemous. They put her in prison. The guards end up raping her because, God forbid, she goes to heaven as a virgin. So no, they got to rape her. And then they, without a trial, without anything, she removes the hair cover. They chop her head off. Gay people are thrown off roofs, stoned.
You know what's insane, Lior? You know what's insane? All the monstrosities that you mentioned about Iran, and yet we have so many people on the left posting things on social media in defense of Iran, right? I mean, have you ever been, banned or suspended for having conversations about Iran on your social media?
I get banned all the time on my channel. You know me, my sister. I have several accounts on what I call crap book, fascist book. And basically what happens over there, I get banned all the time. That's why I have multiple accounts. I don't really care. We got to get the word out there, and I'm glad that people like you that are going the extra mile, making videos, coming out there, getting in touch with, especially with the young out there, the impressionable, because they're the ones falling for everything on the media. Everything the media says, they follow. They don't understand anything that's going on in Iran. They have no idea what a dictatorship. They don't know what socialism leads to, what communism leads to, all of these horrible things that are going on right now. Iran, especially Soleimani, even Iranians were cheering when Trump destroyed Soleimani. I cannot understand how you have these lifters out there who are all for this guy, Soleimani, a murderer. He was basically the Iranian Hitler. He committed mass genocide. The stuff that he was pushing, I just don't get it.
You see, because we're going to get more about how the comparisons between Iran and Nazi Germany, because I have a theory on that. But I want to know what your opinion is about the latest that we've seen from, Hollywood, and their posts. I don't know if you saw this. I got to pull it up. There was this little back and forth between Colin Kaepernick and Megyn Kelly on Twitter. Now, I'm going to read you Colin Kaepernick's tweet. He says, "There is nothing new about American terrorist attacks against Black and brown people for the expansion of American imperialism." He continued on by saying, "America has always sanctioned and besieged Black and brown bodies, both at home and abroad. American militarism is the weapon wielded by American imperialism to enforce its policing and plundering of the non-white world."
Okay.
Can you imagine all that?
Let me tell you about this, okay? What happens if you make it to the NFL and you're the shittiest player alive? If you want to make some publicity, you want to make some heads turn, you got to, you get in touch with your publicist and you do what they tell him. The guy was a crappy player. He needed to push for something. The funniest thing I always find about that is the fact that I know the Quran. I studied Islam. I'm not a Muslim. I'm an Israelite, but I study every religion. And what really pissed me off is that this man claims he's for the Black community. He's for the minorities. He's against the white, oppressors and all of that stuff. Meanwhile, he goes side by side with jihadis like Linda Sauerhor. And what he does
is about to say that.
Yeah, he goes with her.
His girlfriend definitely got him to convert. I bet you.
Yeah, of course. And let me tell you what's funny. The thing is, under Islam, if you read it in the Quran, especially in Surah, they believe that Black people are children of Ham. Okay, and their mission in life, they were created in servitude to be slaves. That's why in Islamic countries right now, Black people are still slaves. They're still being castrated. They're being traded. They're being owned in Islamic countries as slaves. And that's why I can't wrap my head around this. If this guy wants to champion this and try to push this agenda, Okay?
Right?
How are
Because he
you
made
going
it
to
about
stand
race.
side by
Like, what
side
is
with
it
that?
with them? What is it with the Hollywood elitists? They always got to make things about race. But apparently, we're not the only ones who think that he
It
was kind
sells.
of grasping at straws with that one.
But
Megan Kelly had
because
to respond to that.
but
I'm going to tell
because
you what she said.
because it sells. That's why. Remember, these guys, their life is a show. You know, it doesn't end when the guy goes, you know, when you say cut and then everything closes, the cameras close. Their whole life is one big freaking movie. They do what their publicists say, and if they don't, they become the most hated figure. You could see that people who went head to head against Disney and their pedophilia never saw the light of day in the film industry. You could see clearly that's what's going on. These guys are all just puppets, but the problem is, it's how we in America, okay, as patriots, how we sat back here and we always laughed at other countries, about the Middle Eastern countries, how they preach lies. Like Saddam Hussein was telling all of his people, we're winning the war, and they were celebrating while we were whipping their butts. And it's these kind of lies, and we were laughing how they lied to their people. Meanwhile, we didn't take into account that our own media was BSing us. Our own media was pushing a big agenda. And you know, and this is the thing.
They still are, my brother. They still are pushing an agenda. They all do, right? Like Hollywood, the Fourth Estate, and a lot of Democrats in office just seem to be, you know, singing that same tune about racism. He's, you know, Islamophobe. He's only doing this to instigate war. We know that they're full of crap, but you were saying earlier about how we have to really get to the young people in this country because they're ignorant and they're buying into this fad that the Hollywood elites are kind of spreading because, oh my gosh, Meryl Streep said it, so I must believe it. Oh my gosh, Colin Kaepernick, a football player, said it, so I have to believe it.
Well, listen, what did Hitler say? He said, you control the youth, you control the future. Okay, that's exactly what Hitler said. That's the whole point of the Hitler Youth Movement. If you look at the exact things that are happening right now with Antifa, those idiots, weaklings, that never could challenge anybody with a little bit of muscle out in the streets because they'll get their asses owned. The thing is, these weak little shits are imitating the Hitler Youth Movement. And this is all a product of this agenda that they're pushing by the elitists. This is all part of their agenda. This is what they're doing. And, you know, nobody sees anything. Nobody questions anything. They just do as they're told by the media, as if the media became somewhat their God in a way that they just don't question. And they have this blind faith, like everything, as long as it comes, you know, that old saying, if it came from Facebook, it's got to be the truth. That kind of, you know, how they had memes about that stuff. This is exactly what's going on right now. The media is pushing and they're trying to control the young, the youth, to push their agenda because they're
how would you suggest that we actually combat that kind of machine, right? Because it seems like they're all in cahoots with one another, protecting one another. I mean, obviously what we've seen come out of, you know, the mainstream media with, you know, prominent broadcast networks protecting pedophiles of Hollywood, right? If everyone's protecting themselves and they're silencing the conservative ideology, how do we combat that?
Well, my sister, I'm glad you asked that question because the truth of the matter is we could go in circles. The point is the elitists own all of these avenues. The only way we could reach out to them is making videos like you're doing right now. But the number one thing is education begins in the home. That's how it is. Parents need to teach their kids to think. Parents need to teach their kids not to believe blindly in the media and to question things. Because when you question anything, you're going to grow as a person. If you don't question and you just do as you're told, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to be bigger. You're not going to think. You're going to be a sheep. And that's the way they're conditioning these kids today. If you look at the schools, the way they train their children, the kids with Common Core and all that other nonsense, this is all the push.
Lior, I'm not even gonna front. I'm gonna share this story with the people watching because I'm not sure if you remember, but me and my sister, we used to live in an apartment in Jersey City, right? When we first moved out of, you know, Mama's house, I was not prepared for the real world. I mean, high school did not prepare me for how to manage my finances in any way. They did not, you know, teach me about getting stable first, right? Before going for the dream. I had to come back home to complete my home training, right? How to manage my finances, how to think for myself, how to bounce back anytime that I go through some things, but it required proper education. And unfortunately, a lot of the millennial generation didn't get that. And you're right, we have to start putting more, getting more avenues and outlets for us to go to in order to get the truth out and to get the message out. But good gosh, sometimes it feels like we're just kind of shouting in a vacuum and not being able to do anything sometimes.
But my sister, let me tell you something. You had tribulations in your life. You went out, you got a job. You went out and made a difference. Your parents raised you right. That's the thing. The other people, the millennials out there, if you look at them, what they do is they're blaming everybody for taking out loans for buying cars, for taking out stupid loans for taking majors in stupid subjects. The trades are gone now. Nobody's teaching trade anymore. They're telling people, go ahead and take drama as your major. No, they didn't have parents that said, okay, you want to be an actor, be in drama, but take something that you can fall back on. Something like business, something like that, a trade, something. This is how parents are supposed to raise their kids, but today the parents don't do that. They let their kids do their thing and just spend money willy-nilly, and then they bitch and complain why they're in so much debt, that they're looking for loan forgiveness and all that stuff. I didn't know what the hell loan forgiveness was.
I believe that the millennials today are what a comedian likes to call them, fault-finding fuckers. And for those of you who are older, excuse my language, but that's what a lot of them are, fault-finding fuckers.
But you see, that's why you got to understand, you got to do the scapegoat thing to make sense, to justify your stuff. So first they tried, let's start with the Ebola virus. Oh, that didn't work. That didn't stir up a mess. Well, let's start doing a sex war, male against female. That'll prevent a lot of things. Boom, that was a success, but not so much. Then you play the race card. Boom, you always find a scapegoat and they will follow because people don't want to put in the extra time and effort to try to better their lives. Instead, it's easier to scapegoat and say, it's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault.
But would you say that as far as social media is concerned, is that a good outlet to educate the millennial generation? I mean, I know that we have our issues, right, with being censored and all that, but is social media still a good avenue of culture, right? Can we still use it to pump education to them?
I'm going to be honest with you, because I was teaching. I'm a big brother. I did a lot of stuff with the younger generation today. I'm not talking about millennials, but I'm talking about the youth itself. And I could tell you that most of them today, they don't care about social media. They're losing interest in that.
Well, I don't like Facebook.
Facebook is... Who's that?
Yeah, see, no, they do that. We could do these silly things sometimes on Zoom,
sorry,
so it's pretty cool.
Sorry, that's it.
Facebook is awful. People are learning on both sides of the fence that they can't speak what they feel. They know that nobody has freedoms, and they know that they're oppressing the conservatives. They're oppressing the right. They're doing that constantly to push the agenda. And at this level, you got to be a brainless sheep or a lip turd to do something, which is the same. Well, to actually follow something this stupid and not question and say, why aren't they letting the other side speak? Remember, you're only as strong as your enemy. If your enemy challenges you, you're going to be smarter. But if your enemy's a dumbass and they're constantly oppressing your speech, that enemy will not grow. He will not have a challenge, and all he'll do is become a whiny little baby.
Let me ask you this: because we do want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Iran, and I have to say, though social media can be problematic, I mean, I'll say maybe the first few days after Soleimani's attack, right? Everything was coming at me from ABC and CNN and all these Hollywood elites on Twitter and Facebook about how we were wrong and we're imperialists and all that stuff. But then a few days into it, like I want to say between yesterday and today, I was finding a little bit more information about the people of Iran, right? Like, no lie. I think there was an article that was published today, actually, from the Clarion Project, and they were talking about the protest. It's titled "Iranian Protests Call for Resignation of Khamenei." Is that how you pronounce it?
Khomeini.
And it's basically they were chanting "Death to liars." America isn't our enemy. Our enemy is here in Iran. These are the people of Iran.
Did you see the beauty of what actually happened? They brought it over to their students. They put the Israeli flag and the American flag on the floor, and they told them to stomp on it, and they would not do it. They protested it. You know what's happening over there? This is what's happening worldwide. the youth are starting to have a brain, and our youth are starting to lose their fucking brains.
That's a shame. That is such a shame. I mean, we got to do something. We can't allow these kids to just be boo-boo to fools while the rest of the world starts to, maximize on their intellect. We have to do something. I mean, can we actually, what can we take back the fourth estate? Can we take back social media? Can we do that to effectively get the truth out to these kids, especially about when it's about foreign policy? Because this is something that we all should have celebrated, and yet it was a lot of millennials who were buying into that BS from Hollywood and from mainstream media. Do we take that back to push the truth, or is it a lost cause?
So I'm going to tell you, a dear brother of mine and I are actually working on a social media site. We are doing it to be well balanced. It's going to be basically a social media site where you can put all your pictures and whatever, but also you have pits, what we're going to call pits. These pits are going to be where people could have healthy debates with one another on both sides of the fence, because that's what they fear the most, is for us to come together and to talk to one another. Because you see, worldwide, oppressed people already lifted that curtain, so they know the crap that's going on. So they already know the truth, but our people don't, because the curtains are still down. And that's the thing. We're going to be lifting those curtains. And what our mission is to actually get people to donate servers. I built servers, so we're going to have servers, and we plan to go nationwide first and then worldwide. The plus in that is nobody could force you and say, well, we're going to shut you down because you spoke like this. It's going to be freedom of speech, the best freedom of speech ever. Everyone's going to be able to talk, and that's what we're pushing for. And I think right now that's what we need to do. I mean, Facebook, that's sucking bird. He stole the idea from MySpace. Well, he stole it from his friend who stole it from MySpace. But the point is, there's no freedom of speech anymore. And anything you do, you go to school.
Like no speech. It's like they don't want anyone having a conversation, period. I mean, you don't even have to agree with a conservative, right? Just talking to a conservative makes them say, oh, you're a racist. But it's like, wait a minute, I'm liberal. I voted for Hillary Clinton. What are you talking about? I was just asking the guy for a soda. But just talking to a conservative about absolutely anything renders them, you're no longer a lefty. You're no longer a liberal. You're no longer Democrat. Because
let me tell you, I could end the BS in 2 seconds. I had a debate with one of these idiots who constantly call people racist because they don't agree with anything. The only thing you really got to say is very, very simple. Does racism exist? Of course it does. Is it as big as people are marketing it? Absolutely not. And I'm going to explain why. Because if we were a racist country, there's no way in hell Obama would have got the majority of the people, not once but twice, to vote for him strictly because of the color of his skin. If I was a Nazi right now, okay, if we were all Nazis, why the hell would we vote for Obama? That's how the left they bit their tongues. Because the second you mentioned that, they can't talk anymore.
End of conversation.
Yeah, so how am I racist if somebody voted for Obama? A guy that was a complete failure, but only because of the color of his skin, people voted for him. So if everybody was a Nazi, how the hell did he win twice? Not just once,
that brings me back to what Colin Kaepernick was saying, right? I mean, he loved President Obama. America was the shit under Obama. But when Trump is the president, now all of a sudden we're an imperialist nation and we're the terrorists. We take out a guy who killed a bunch of Americans, yet we are the terrorists. I mean, what kind of logic is that? I commend Megyn Kelly for fighting back on that one. I totally do. I can't stand Colin Kaepernick.
Obama gave $50 billion to Iran. Okay.
Right. Money that was used to rebuild their regime, right?
Our president drops a bomb, kills the terrorist. Obama funded the terrorist.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying. There's such a difference in Obama's foreign policy and Trump's. It seems like Obama's foreign policy, not just with Iran, right, but even with the Mexican cartels, it was, we're going to appease our enemy. We're not going to be strong with them. We're not going to, fight back, show them strength. We're going to appease them, and maybe they won't kill us. Maybe they won't hurt us. But all you did was make them stronger, and the people much more victim. They're becoming more of a victim.
But you see, let me tell you, Democrats are not stupid. They're very cunning. They act like they're stupid. They want you to think they're stupid. The reason Obama did it, Obama was a puppet. If you remember when he was a senator, he was a brilliant man. And he gave it all up. The second he became president, he changed in 2 seconds, completely became a communist jihadist. And the reason why is because he's a puppet. And the thing is, the Democrats are very smart the way they're pulling this, because they know they're losing votes. People in America are waking up. They are losing votes. And right, with all their stupid acts and every little stunt that they're pulling, people are starting to wake up. And because of that, they're counting on illegals. They want the illegals. They want the Mexican drug cartel. They want everybody coming in because they're the only ones that are going to vote for them illegally. That's the only people that are going to vote for them.
You know what's been killing me about the left, right? It's like, I feel like today we're not voting for, the advancement of, American society, right? We're not trying to advance technology. We're not trying to explore new resources for us to power, our everyday utilities. We're not voting to advance our society in that way. We're voting to protect the left from, completely undoing our foundation, removing civility from our society. It's like
destroying our Constitution.
We have to vote to protect our sovereignty. We're voting to keep you from changing how we do things here. And they call us radical. We had to vote a man like Trump in the White House because you were taking it too far, lefties.
Let me tell you, the original patriots, okay? When we were fighting even the Civil War, the patriots that represented the truth and that represented freedoms, we were called radicals back then too. You understand that? Everything that becomes a fear to people, especially when we're standing up for our constitutional freedoms that they want to destroy and take away from us, because they're all idiots. So these people don't understand. They have no concept of even what the Constitution is. So they're calling us radicals. People like us who are fighting for freedom is considered a radical, because if we're not sheep and slaves, that's not good enough for the demon crapping movement. That's not good for them. So that's the way they're marketing us, as radicals. Oh, Trump was loved. If you remember when he ran against the Republicans, if you remember that when in the beginning, when he was going up against all the Republicans, Ted Cruz, everybody, they had him on every show. Everybody loved it because he was making a mockery out of the Republican Party, and they loved it. But then when he started going up against the Democrats, he became the most hated
American society. They don't recognize how much of hard work it is to actually protect America and its sovereignty and its people. It takes work. And these lefties, man, they're not trying to let us spread truth. They're not trying to allow us to actually educate individuals, right? I mean, even me, for example, I used to just, when I would talk about Iran, I would talk about them, as if the entire nation, people included, were jihads in a sense. I used to think that of all Iranians. And it took me to actually educate myself to realize, no, it's not the people. It's looking like their government is a bunch of terrorists because they're killing their own people just because they disagree with them. It took some education.
But let me just let you know this. It actually was a time where everybody in Iran was against. They were for the entire regime of Khomeini. They're the ones that actually pushed for the revolution. Just now, their kids are fighting back. And a lot of these people, some of them are waking up. But still the majority of Iran, don't let this fool you, because the majority of Iran are anti-American, anti-everything, anti-democracy, and they're pro the Khomeini laws because they believe that their ideologies, the strict ideologies, are preventing them. You have to remember, their culture is based on their religion. It's not like religious freedom here, like in America. We're talking about a religion that controls every aspect of your life in the most strictest way possible, or you're not considered to them as one of them. So they're raised to believe that. I mean, women, literally, they put a finger in their mouths before they get married and smack the woman's head so she'll guard her tongue, okay, against her husband so that she'll remain silent. This is the kind of their upbringing since the day they're born. They believe this is the correct way.
So it's not so much their religion as much. It's mostly like their savage culture that is really antithetical to American society and American way of life.
They made their extreme religion. They made up their own religion in their regions that became their culture. Now, if you ask a lot of Muslims in America, you ask them, what do you think of that? They're laughing they can't believe how brainwashed they are. And they're saying, a lot of the people, especially the peaceful among them, are saying, They can't believe that they could be like this. They can't believe that, they can surrender like that. You don't surrender to them, you surrender to God. And they talk like that. The thing is, they, over there in their country, they're raised like this since the day they're born. Terrorism is their nature.
Because I have, like,
Hey,
I've met
Asia,
so many
Asia, real
like,
quick.
American.
We need to move on to the next segment. So, final point on Iran.
Okay. So, I just wanted to say, like, after everything that we know as far as what's going on, with Iran, we just need to make sure that we're fighting against them, right? I know that there are American Muslims here in this country, and they're completely different than what we've seen in Iran. But it seems like they're infiltrating, right, us here in America. And I believe, like, social media has been their Hindenburg.
Of course.
In a sense. Like, it's kind of reached it over. So what comparisons do you see as far as, is social media like Iran's Hindenburg, how, Hitler was trying to get his ideology and his Nazis over here? Would you say social media has been that kind of a boost for them?
Yes, social media has become like the media itself was for Hitler. When he pushed it through their books, he pushed it through their advertisements, he had the same kind of avenues, just it was different in the time of the Nazi Germany. They're doing exactly the same thing. They have Sesame Street in their country that is like a Sesame Street show that's preaching hatred against the West. This is the kind of things that are happening. Like Bridget Gabriel is doing a lot of speeches against the stupidity that exists there. And that's what they're pushing here. They're having them, the leftist elitists are having them infiltrate our country now. We're not talking about peaceful or anything like that. We're talking about people from them who are called refugees, even though they're not refugees. The Christians should be the refugees. They're the ones that are being exterminated, not their own. They're coming over here and they're completely infiltrating everything. And they're controlling everything through the media. We're told safe spaces. We're told this. We're told that. Be welcoming, loving. That's what happened in Lebanon. They were all loving.
So we know that the mainstream media is in cahoots with, like the far leftists. They're definitely in cahoots with the Islamic State, obviously, because they are kind of protecting them. Social media has become that same kind of an outlet for them too, but not so much just spreading of their ideology, but spreading panic. And so I feel, no lie, I think we might be able to not so much hijack Facebook from them. It's more of kind of flood the market with truth. And I think if we do that with almost everything, right? Like how we push law and order, for example, right? Kind of promote why authority is a good thing in this country. Social media might be a good tool to do that.
Yep, I agree.
What say you? What do you think of that? Like using social media to kind of, promote better conservative ideals.
Yes, so that's why we're working on right now several outlets. I would love to see a lot of conservatives doing the same, working on outlets to try to get out there and get in touch with people. But again, education begins in the home. It's extremely important. And then you push through social media, the thing that all our kids are on, they're always on it, but it is dying with the youth. It is a dying race. People are now going to Instagram and stuff like that. They're staying away from things like Facebook. So I am hoping that we can push the conservative ideologies, the truth ideologies, how important our freedoms are to us, and make educate our kids to know the difference between that and between communist regimes and how failing it is. Because communism looks good on paper, but it's absolutely the worst thing in the world.
While, until you're actually living in it. Thank you so much, Lior. I really, really appreciate everything, you coming on, being my first guest. I want you to come on a little bit, other times though, for sure.
Definitely. It's an honor.
Awesome sauce. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, brother. I will be talking with you soon, actually.
Oh, definitely.
You have a good one, Lior.
You too. Have a good one. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, you guys, that was my good friend, Lior. He is a veteran filmmaker. My name is Asia Branch. I am your host of Speak On It, and tune in next week at 7 p.m. Good night.
Start spreading the news.